When I went to Auburn, we had a pig.
How big did it get?
It was very small. It's actually a funny story. I have 1 minute. I'll try to make it quick. So the people upstairs, there were boys who lived upstairs, and one of them got a pig for his girlfriend. The girlfriend was like, I don't want this pig. But they lived up in a second floor apartment. So the pig would live outside our apartment. And the pig's name was Henry, and I had a dog named Hendrix. And my parents told me, under penalty of death, get a dog when you go to college. Well, I didn't listen, and I got Hendrix. So then my sister, at one point, she like got really mad about something, and she was like, oh yeah, well, Ashley has a dog named Henry. And I was like, no, I don't. I have a pig named Henry and a dog named Hendrix. So I had a pig and a dog. I still have the dog. He's 13 now. But yeah, we had a pig. He lived outside our house. His name is Henry. We feed him cheese.
Feeding cheese, yeah. Oh. All right. Well, great story. And with that, thank you, Ashley. Ashley here from Artistry. She is going to show us how to turn your sublimation printer into a coloring book and host a make and take. Ashley, thank you so much for being here, and take it away, darling.
Thank you, Sprite, for the wonderful introduction. Hello, Condi fam. As Sprite said, my name is Ashley, and I'm with a company called Artistry. And for those of you who don't know what Artistry is, we have taken that love of sublimation and we have put it into craft form so that people can experience sublimation without a printer. So what's really cool about you guys and why I love doing stuff like this is you guys already know all the basics about sublimation. You know about how to make sublimation sandwiches, you know about blanks, you have all of the sublimation knowledge that you need. So we're going to take that knowledge and we're going to put it into another direction, and I'm going to show you guys how you can use our products to build up a new stream of revenue for your small business. So thank you so much for Connie for having us and hosting this wonderful open house. It's always a pleasure. So just a little bit about Artistry. We started with a pack of 10 markers, and since then we have grown into more colors, different tips, and we also have a stamp pad. So not only have we just grown in regards to that, but now we offer, you know, all sorts of things in what we call the full solution. And of course, Condi has everything that you need. They have thousands and thousands of blanks, all specialty coded. And just because you're using our markers, what's really cool is nothing really changes. The directions don't change. It's still the same time, temperature, and pressure that and often I find myself on the Condi website checking the directions on each project page to double check. So all of those directions that you guys know and love apply the exact same way to our products, whether you're using a stamp pad or whether you're using a marker. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of that same sublimation knowledge that you guys have, you can use with our products. So we created Artistry because we love sublimation printers. Our parent company is actually involved with traditional sublimation, but you have to have a printer. Prior to Artistry, you had to have a printer to experience sublimation, unless we're talking chemistry term, which we can nerd out a little later, but that's why we created Artistry, so people could experience sublimation without a printer. So we love the printers. They do fabulous things and they make gorgeous, gorgeous items. But, you know, wouldn't it be fun if we could bring sublimation places with us, like to parties or to farmers markets and things like that? So I'm going to be talking about some of that today. So that's where we come in, is we're going to give you guys the ability to do sublimation anywhere, anytime. Now, of course, there's a few things that you need, and a lot of it you guys already know and have on hand, and I'll go over that here today as well. So moving right along here, what we call, when we host a make and take, we call it the sublimation station. Okay. And basically there are some things that you need. And like I just said, that you guys already have. So let's talk about some of the things you need to host a sublimation station. You need markers. Bonus if you have the stamp pad, and we'll talk about that here in a minute too. You need copy paper. Okay, so that I know throws you guys for a loop. Save that sublimation paper for when you need it, because you don't need it for Artistry products. You just need plain copy paper, and there's really no rules there. Some people ask, you know, can I use like cardstock. And that may be great if you're, you know, getting creative with a paintbrush and coloring and adding the markers with a little wet paintbrush. Then you might want something that's a little thicker that can hold a little, you know, more of that liquid. But we love being able to say, you know, regular copy paper only. So definitely want to make sure you have lots of regular copy paper on hand. And then you want to have stencils that just make mirroring text easier. And of course, if you're not artistically inclined, that's what's so nice about stencils is they give people inspiration and they give them ideas, because a lot of the time they're like, oh, I don't know what to draw. So it's nice to have things like stencils and stamps on the table to help bring them some ideas. And then some of the things that you want to consider when hosting the sublimation station, what we like to do is we like to have, and of course we host very large ones, but we like to have a separate area for people to sit down and make, and when they come up to bring up their project. So for example, we have, and if we've seen many of you, your smiling faces, that shows what we'll do is we'll have the separate make and take table, and on that table will be pre-cut copy paper. So then that way it's not cut down all the way, because you guys know you need an inch all the way around so you have some place to put your tape, right? So like we'll use the keychains as an example, right? So they're 2.25 by 2.25, the Unisub keychain. So you just want to give yourself a little bit on all sides, and then cut those and have those pieces of paper out on the table in a small stack. Now don't put your whole stack out there, because then one person takes a marker and rubs all over, and then you're out all that copy paper, because the ink is just like regular, you know, sublimation ink from your printer. It's powerful, and when it hits the heat, it's going to look for that polyester. So just put a little bit of copy paper on the table. Of course, you need the markers on the table. And then here's a good trick. Only put one type of blank on the table. And here's why. You just need one on the table for them to trace with a pencil. And that's how they know their trace space. Now, of course, you guys, if you guys really want to use your sublimation printers, and that's what we're about to get to here in a minute, you could even create a template. Okay. And you could even have it be, if you wanted to be sublimation ink, I would just do it like even bigger than the blank. So then that way that line just transfers to nothing, because there's no blank to. That's what I would do. But when we don't use a sublimation printer, that's what we do, is we tell them to trace it with a pencil. And that's how they know how to, where to color it in. So that's all on the table. And then when they're done, they have to get up, which is great, because if you're at some type of situation where you want to turn them and burn them, and we'll talk about pricing here in a little bit, and in your handout does have some recommended pricing for fundraisers and things like that. You want to get them up out of the seat, over to where we're making the sublimation sandwiches, as I call them, right? So they bring me over their blank. I like to check it out, make sure that they mirrored their text, make sure that they colored outside the lines. If they trace that little pencil space, you know, because everybody's so used to coloring inside the lines, right? But sublimation, you know, what was it? Sprite Spray, you sublimators, right? You guys know that you want to go outside the trace, the template space. You want to have that bleed, right? Well, that you want to do the same thing when you're coloring, right? So those are the things I like to look for. So then that way I can make sure that I transfer it successfully for them. Now, of course, in those type of situations where I'm doing all the pressing, those are like high volume, high foot traffic type of situations, right? If you're hosting a make and take where it's longer, and let's say it's a bigger blank, like a tote bag, you could even have them do the pressing. And if it's for like a longer, you know, you have a longer time span. But when we do it, we like to keep the blank small. So then that way there's not a lot of time to create, you know, they just do it really quickly. And then of course we get them up, and then we make their sublimation sandwich. And then, you know, if we have a few that are ready at a time, we get 3 pressed in there at the same time, because they're all the same thickness. And so they have all the same pressing time. So that makes things nice and easy. So that is something to consider when you want to think about what type of blank you want to offer. Same thicknesses, same pressing times are something to consider, because, you know, you guys know how that goes. You can't press thin metal bookmarks with a maple bag tag, right? Well, you can, but you shouldn't. So you guys get it. So keep that in mind. If you do the same blank, then you can press 5 at once. And then what I do is I just have a little station, a cool down station. So that way they know that it's hot and don't touch. And I joke that if you worked in a restaurant, you can touch it sooner rather than later. And so that way they just know that it's hot, and then they can grab it and take it on their way. And if there's something like a bag tag loop or a magnet where you're going to add a little adhesive magnet, or the key ring and the key tab, all those type of things, I'll just put those in a little basket to the right hand side, and they can add that at their leisure whenever they're ready to touch it. And sometimes they even like to keep the piece of paper. So I try not to, when I like go to rip it off, I try to save their design if I can, because sometimes when I hand it to them, I say, would you like to keep your design? And I would say 50% of the time people want to keep their design. So that is a lot of what goes into the sublimation station, how we host the make and take. And I don't know if this would be a good time to ask if there are any questions in the comments before I move on to the sublimation printer part. Do you host mostly for children or adults? That's a great question. So we do both. The 10-pack, original 10-pack is approved for children. And what's really interesting, and you guys can appreciate this because you guys work with these tools all the time, is basically when it comes to testing for products and how you can say the age, right? Just a little side note here is they say, okay, what are these markers used for, right? And then we had to tell them, you draw on paper, and then you use a heat press, and then you transfer it, and so on and so forth. So they don't say, oh, it's 3 and up for the first part of the project and 9 and up for the second part of the project. They don't do that. They just say 9 and up across the board. And that's because of the heat press. Okay. That's because of the heat element. So everything is very, very safe. So we have done both children and adults, and we've had a lot of success with both. So you guys, I didn't realize they weren't in the frame, but my markers are tipped down. Make sure that markers are tipped down before and during use, and especially for a make and take, make sure they're tipped down. If you have a busy make and take, and you've turned and burned 4 people, go ahead and go back and make sure all those markers are tipped down so they're ready to go for the next person. So those are some good questions. Anne says, what does pricing look like? So you'll want to check that there's a handout in the Huva app, I believe is how you pronounce it. And that mainly goes for a lot of fundraising. So that might be a little bit higher than anticipated. And that's why it's in that fundraising part of the outline. But you really just want to think about, what of course, your costs on the project, and each time it's going to be different depending on different scenarios. So I think like if you're going to do like a farmer's market versus a private party versus a fundraiser, I think the pricing will vary based on the type of occasion. So let me see if there's any other questions. Well, the markers work with the Cricut and the Silhouette. Great question. So the markers do fit in the Silhouette with the pen adapter that comes with the Silhouette set because it's just the gray and the white piece. And then Cricut, you have to use a hack because they just, that's how they roll. So you got to just use a hack. We've seen people put like electric tape, and there's so many Cricut brand adapters on Amazon that you could use. Let me see. I am scrolling up a little bit. Could you print with a regular printer instead of sub dry area? Yes. So Beth, I'll talk about that in a second when I go over the printer. Okay, can they use Cricut Silhouette? Just did that. Okay, ask your question again. If I missed it, I'm sorry. You guys we're just flying through the questions. Love it, love it. Okay, so let's move on to the sublimation printer. Okay, so in the handout that's on the Huva app, there's a link to our blog, and at the summit, in the Sublimation Summit in March, the virtual version, I did this blog for that class. And so basically what you're going to do, and it's really simple, is you're going to put regular copy paper into your sublimation printer. Okay. You're going to decide what type of blank. So the same thing you guys do for regular sublimation, traditional sublimation, as I call it, you're going to decide the blank. You're going to decide the design. You're going to make sure it's sized down correctly. And then all you're going to do, oh, and when you're looking for designs, the keyword is stencil or coloring page or that sort of thing. Those are the type of words that you want to look for when you're looking for designs. And then once you have it, just like you do with your regular sublimation printer, when you're doing your regular projects, you're going to mirror it. Same thing goes. And then you're just going to print it onto that regular copy paper. And then all they have to do is color it in because you've sized it down and and so with that sublimation black ink, so it'll transfer, and that is what we do. And again, going back to pre-cut the pieces of paper, nice and to the size of the blank that you're offering. And again, if you're going to offer 2 or 3 blanks, then maybe make sure that that design not only fits on the keychain, but it also works for the bag tag, or if it works for the coaster too. Make it easy on yourself. You don't want someone to say, oh, I want to do this fish, but it only fits for the bookmark. Like, make it easy. Make sure the designs fit for whatever blanks that you want to use. So again, you're just going to do everything that you do with your regular sublimation printing, but you're going to use regular copy paper, and you're going to look for those words stencils or coloring pages. And what's really awesome is, just like what you guys usually do, is you can tailor the blank and the occasion and the design all to the event or your audience or the time of year. So that is how you do that. So in the handout, there's a link to the blog, and that is available all the time. And I did it in March, so that's why it says Happy St. Patrick's Day. So that is up there for you guys to follow step by step. And then somebody, and forgive me, I forgot their first name, I think it was Beth, asked about a regular printer. So I actually just an hour ago got done doing a project in our affiliate group, and I actually just printed things out on a regular printer. We have a sublimation printer in the craft room, but I just printed it on a regular printer. So here's some of the rules, and I know everybody loves to break the rules, but here's my recommendation. So when you print something out on regular printer, you don't really know what this ink, like this is regular printer, what this ink's going to do when you heat it up. You don't really know. So what you want to do is, so what I did is I printed out whatever I wanted to. I just went into Word. I just needed some mirrored text. And I picked some font, whatever I wanted to write, and I just printed it out normally, front ways. I didn't mirror it or anything. Then I flipped that piece of paper over and took a fresh sheet of new copy paper, and I put it on top, okay? And I used a light box to trace through. Now, you're probably asking, why can't I just trace on this side, right? Why can't I just trace on this side? And it's only because I just, like, ink can be powerful. You guys see it firsthand all the time. It could go through the paper and affect that blank. And I wish blanks grew on trees, but they don't. So why not just take a fresh sheet of copy paper and make sure that you're going to set yourself up for success. And then what we do is we just save them. After we print them, we have a little file, and I save them according to theme and whatever, and then I pull them out as needed. So that's what you should do when you use a regular printer. Another question: how long do the markers last? If you take one marker and you draw a straight line, it goes over 4 football fields, and that is why storage is very important. Make sure you keep your markers horizontal, and then when you get ready to use them before use, like maybe 15-20 minutes, 30 minutes if the pack's brand new, tip down, and during use keep them tipped down. How does it work with, let's say, sublimation to cotton media? My mind is going now. So this is actually, this is cotton, or not cotton, but this is an example of, getting around. This is glitter vinyl. So it's the exact same rules for the markers as it is for a sublimation printer. So all those things that Condi offers that helps you, use cotton, whether it's the Easy Subli or all of those things. And of course, I haven't tested all of them with the markers, but because this is just the same sublimation ink, just in craft form, you should be able to use all those things that you can use for cotton as well. And actually, I mean, in our group, they were like, listen, I needed a last minute onesie for 4th of July. I know it's cotton. I know I'm not supposed to. And she did it. And it actually turned out pretty good. The colors obviously don't look as good as polyester. They don't look as sharp. They don't look as vivid. They don't look like they came, they don't look the best, right? So you just have to remember that to get the best results, you want to use the best items, and that's something that's made for sublimation. Are they refillable? The markers are not refillable, but we do have a Sublimation Stamp Pad ink refill for the Sublimation Stamp Pad. So that is ink in craft form. And forgive me, I don't have one in reach, but it's a little bottle of black sublimation ink. So that we do have that. Okay. I hope I didn't miss anything. Okay, so copy paper is preferred. Yes, Angela, we actually do not use sublimation paper. It's because of that texture. So when you take the marker and you go and try to draw, just the texture of the paper and the nib of the marker just don't play well together. So save that sublimation paper for your sublimation printer when you're not trying to make a coloring book. Okay. Yes, there's a silhouette pen adapter holder, and it's the gray and the white piece. And if you guys, I can send something to Sprite, or maybe put something in the comments in the Whova app afterwards about silhouette and the markers. Where did you get the bikini designs for the apron behind you? Miss Mary, this is the Artistry Craft Room. That isn't a design, that's a drawing. Isn't that funny? So you can see on this one where it was two separate presses. We had a little bit of a miss the line here, but aren't those hilarious? My sister did those. So yeah, that's those are drawings, not designs. So it really is true sublimation just in craft form. So these are great questions. Okay, so some things you can do with your sublimation printer before we move on to where you guys can do artistry with people. And now that like Rona's kind of like over, we can get back out there. I'm so exciting. Things that you want to do, and remember I was talking about stencils and stamps and having things that people can gravitate towards if they don't have any inspiration. You can do capitalize on those themes, do area codes, do zip codes, airport codes, like on hats, those are really popular. You can do those as well. And then also think about like locally, like if you were in New England, you could do lighthouses or something like that. So think about little designs like that. And that people just, it's easy for anybody, whether you're, male, female, young, old, purple, orange, whatever, anything people like. Children's gifts with this is huge, because think about it, all those drawings that they love, and of course we love them and we feel bad and we put them on the refrigerator, but then we're like, we feel bad about throwing them away. Now they can be put on things, and just like the regular sublimation, it's in that blank for a lifetime. It's not coming out. It's just as professional level as coming out of your printer, except that little kid did it. So it's pretty cool. So Diane, we actually made sublimation stamps. Just one set. It has about 7 stamps. It's like happy, peace, love, travel, woof, because we're dog people. And Condi has those. So just to let you know, she's right. Traditional stamps are mirrored. So then that way on the birthday card, it reads happy birthday. But we want happy birthday on the paper to be mirrored. So then that way, when we transfer it to the metal panel, it's right. So we made a set of non-mirrored stamps, AKA sublimation stamps. So then that way, when you go to stamp on the paper, it's mirrored. But when it comes to designs like butterflies and hearts and all that stuff, you don't have to worry about it. But yes, regular stamps, your stuff is going to be reversed. So do keep that in mind. Okay, so let's talk about you guys and like your small businesses, and some of you guys have storefronts, and some of you guys do farmers markets and private parties and things like that. Let's talk about how this can play into some of the things that you guys are already doing. So if you have a small business storefront, I mean, that's obviously the best, because then you can host classes and you can do the bigger totes, and you could, do like a bachelorette party type of, wouldn't it be fun? Like get all the girls together before the beach trip and everybody makes their own bag. And because you have that storefront, you can do the bigger items, charge a little bit more, maybe have refreshments and things like that, so that sort of thing. So that's what's really nice about that. You can have multiple blanks to choose from. And what's really nice is you can keep that same inventory that you have for whatever you're currently doing with sublimation, have that up on the same options you can offer to your crafting, your sublimation craft audience as well. It's the exact same blanks, can be used with our products. So keep that in mind, that you don't have to go out and source special blanks for Artistry. You can just, get the markers and then use all the stuff that you guys already have in your toolbox, in your sublimation toolbox. So do-it-yourself personalization parties would be a great thing to do at a store. Consider double-sided blanks, so that way you can extend the project time if you want to still keep the project small. Something that people love is doing the drinkware or other objects with the shrink wrap. It's like extra level DIY with the heat gun. So that's really fun. And what's really and something to consider about that is, if you're on the move, it's not a heat press, right? It's just your oven that you're bringing. So it's definitely a little less cumbersome in regards to hosting a make and take, as opposed to a heat press. So that's something to consider as well. If you don't have a store, right, what are your options? Of course, farmers markets. That's a great place where not only you can, host a make and take, maybe have a couple bar stools out front, and say, with a $50 purchase free make and take, or vice versa. You could do something like that. Something that you maybe want, like some hurdles, right? Somebody says, oh, we don't have time for that. Well, they're used to arts and crafts where they're going to have to do a lot, and there's like a dry time and like all that stuff. Well, this isn't that. You have to explain that to them. This is different. This is sublimation, right? You can take as little time or as much time as you want. It can be as little as stamping the flower into the stamp pad, stamping the paper, coloring it in real quick, and then press for 60 seconds and we're out of here. I mean, how long could that take? I mean, really, if it's a keychain, it could take like 5 minutes. So sometimes that's something that people think, they're like, oh my God, we're going to be here forever coloring. Not the case, not the case. Okay. You can, so that's when my response, when they say, how long does this take? I say, well, it depends like how into it you get. Like you could be like, one line, I'm done. Let's see this in action. Let's go. That's not usually how it happens, but that's just how I like to explain it. So that's how I would do it, is I would have some bar stools up front, or some place where people love to like come over and look and see what other people are doing. And then they ask questions. And then of course you can have all your traditional sublimation stuff, on display behind you. And again, you could consider double-sided blanks here as well. Maybe put your logo on one side, and from your printer, like if you did the keychain, for example, again, and then on the other side, they could, create something, and maybe that's complimentary, like with a purchase or something like that. So that's something that is just another idea that we have. So farmers markets, are great, because especially if you don't have a storefront, and I know some of you guys are already doing that. And again, think about it. If you don't want to take your heat press, okay, because sorry, I don't know where to try the heat press, right? If you don't want to take your heat press and it's too big, because I know some of you guys have like Mahusive heat presses, okay, you could do an easy press, right, or something like that, a craft press as I call it. But also, really, if you're serious about this, I think Condi has a Geonite heat press that's less than $300. I mean, so if you're serious about this, you might want to consider doing something like that, because with a heat press, don't forget, like, you're the press, you gotta like stand there, whereas usually I'm like, okay, press, I've got 60 seconds. And I'm like making the next sandwich. And I'm like, you know, going on to the next thing. But if you're the press, you got to like stand there for 60 seconds and wait. So just keep that in mind. But then again, you also have this as an option to, you know, make things easier. Okay, let me check. You guys, the comments are flying. We're talking about cats, I guess. That's cool. Just let me know if you have any questions. I don't see, is there some way we can see an example? This is new to me. Yeah, I could turn on, yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but let me turn on the heat press and maybe we can do a demo at the end. Okay. All right, are we good? Did I miss any other questions? Okay. All right, so I just turned on the heat press. Maybe we'll have a demo at the end. It is as simple as we're going to color on paper and then we're just going to transfer it to the blank. So that's heating up. Okay. All right. Another thing, if you don't have a storefront, why not add private parties as something that you do? You can go to people's houses, and again, you can just tailor that blank to the occasion, the design that you're going to print on the printer. You can, and what I would do is I would just have a few to choose from. I would make them bigger. If you're going to go to someone's house, you know, you want people to spend more time. So I would do like wine bags or tote bags, tumblers, things like that, you know, water bottles. And then you could host that at their house. And again, that would be great to bring this. Gender reveals, engagement parties, family reunions. You could do birthday parties, bridal showers. I actually did a baby shower onesie, and it was, what I did was I just had people do a little something. Like I didn't want onesie, polyester onesies aren't exactly inexpensive, right? So what I did, instead of saying, okay, everybody's going to make their own onesie, I just had everybody do a little something, write a little saying, whether it was a stamp, and color it in. And then I cut them all out, and then I put them all over the onesie, front and back. And then that was like almost like a guest book of the baby shower. And it was really, really cute. And they really appreciated it, you know, because yes, the puffy paint and things like that are fun, but if that baby like goes like pick it off, you know, what's so nice is truly sublimation. It's in the fabric, and it's 100% safe. So I just thought that was really nice. It's like a high quality thing that they can cherish forever because it's sublimation. So it was really, really, really cute idea. And I think that was a good way to do it because not everybody likes to color. I'll be real. You know, that's why the printers came about, I'm sure, right? Because not everybody wants to draw all their art all the time. Maybe that's why printers were invented. But it was nice to just be able to say, oh, just stamp this little thing, right? And then you just kept it small, and then they were able to just put their touch on it and go enjoy the party. So that's something that how do they mirror? So a trick that I use for mirroring is I keep a thin Sharpie on the make and take table. So we were talking about having two separate tables, right? So I keep a thin Sharpie on the make and take table where the guests are. And then I tell them to trace their blank, or, you know, if they have a sublimation printer template, I tell them to flip it over. And then I tell them to write normally with the Sharpie, the thin Sharpie. I just tell them to write normally. So it's write Ashley, and then flip it over, put the Sharpie down. I tell them, like, just for text, don't go crazy with the Sharpie because it doesn't matter. That's a waste of time. Just put the Sharpie down. They want to keep going, and I have to tell them, put the Sharpie down. You're done with the Sharpie. And then they add the color, and that's how they do it. And that's my trick for mirrored text on the go. No stencils, no stamps, no printer. No, just you and your hands. So that is how I do mirrored text. A replay ASAP. That's a Sprite question. I want to make sure I don't. Can you show the baby shower sublimation onesie? I don't have it because it was a gift, but there's a picture in our group on Facebook. So I'd have to go back and find it. So I hope I answered that question about mirrored text. I recommend the Sharpie, the thin Sharpie trick, or taking a regular stencil and just flip it over. Do you have a sample of your monogram stamps to show how they can do that with the stamp pad? Hopefully I'll be able to use them here in just a second, Sandra. Okay. What's the best way to store the markers? You're going to want to store them horizontally, and then before use and during use, tip down. And if you guys are like, oh my God, I bought these markers a year ago and they're tipped down in my drawer right now, don't worry, just put them the other way. Just put them tip up for a little bit, even it out, or just put it horizontal and they'll end up evening out. It's totally fine. Totally fine. Okay, so we talked about private parties. I just want to make sure I don't miss any questions. Okay, so let's jump into school fundraisers. Okay, I think fundraising and artistry is going to be a big thing. If I could spend all day in that industry, I would, because it's one of the things that we really want to focus on, because, and the thing is that's why I need you guys. I went to a PTO Today show, and you know what the lady said to me? She's like, this is brilliant. Are you going to come to my school? And I said, no, I'm not going to come to your school, but you guys can go to their school, and you guys can, you know, with your sublimation knowledge, meet up with the science teacher and the PTO Today president, the PTO president, and the art teacher, and you guys can facilitate this sublimation station with all the knowledge you're getting today. And you can not only keep a percentage for yourself, possibly, you know, get sponsored and give back to the school. So I thought that was really funny when she said, are you going to come to my school? And I was like, oh my God, there's one of me and how many schools in the United States? That's not going to work. So that's where you guys come in. So you can partner with your local schools, and you guys have the Condi, you know, the big Condi brochure. You guys can bring that to the school and say, what would you like? What, you know, and you guys can do that and show them. And now I would narrow it down a little bit, because let's be real, that's one big Condi brochure, right? That's a lot of blanks to choose from. It's like the most ever. So maybe narrow it down. But what I'm saying is you can plan ahead of time, where you can order things in accordance with the event that you want to plan with the school. So you guys look at that handout. There is a huge list of things that schools do all year round that you can get involved with: field days, pep rallies, end of the school year, those holiday shops. Okay, you guys can get involved with all of those type of things. So all you would have to do is a lot of the things you already have again, and then you just need the markers, regular copy paper, and even, like I said, look into and you know, once you start this conversation, you can say, you know, is there somebody locally who's like really into science and really into art and would love to see this facilitated at their school? You might be surprised how many people would be willing to help you. So in that way, it's not only more back to the school, more in your pocket, and win-win for everybody, because they get, you know, a great project that they can keep for a lifetime, right? Because it's truly sublimation. So Christy asked, how long do the markers last in between uses? So I like to say, with proper storage, your markers are going to last season to season. They're not going to dry out. For example, we work with summer camps, and there was a summer camp who bought the markers last year, or even 2 years ago, maybe, and they're using them again this summer. So again, if you find that your markers were tip up, put them tip down, and they should be fine. And let me know. And if not, let me know, because I always like to know. But really, with proper storage, your markers should be just fine. What is holding your markers tip down? This is a pop-in holder. I got this at like office supply company. We just think it's a fun little marker holder. And the brand is POPPIN, and they make office supplies. And that's what we use. What is the proper way to store the markers when not used? Horizontally when not in use, tip down before and during use. So don't fret. Just if they've been tipped down, just put them horizontally and then put them tipped down the next time. Please make complete process to understand. I'm about to do a demo. Is there anything else? How do your markers not walk away? Not walk away? I don't know what that means. Okay, one more thing, and then we'll do the demo. Let me check and make sure that my heat press is heating up. Okay, we're good. We're at 360. It's almost there. Okay, so there's also community organizations outside schools, outside your storefront, outside private parties. There are all sorts of things like local businesses who would love for you to set up a make and take station, even for free. Like they would say, come, yes, give people a reason to stay longer and drink more beer in our beer garden. Okay, so you guys can definitely get involved there. Club sports. I used to row in high school. I think hosting a make and take for their own t-shirt at a regatta. You can even have people sign, you know, in the normal Sharpie, turn it over, trace it with a marker and put signatures on a team t-shirt. So there's all sorts of ways that you guys can get involved outside of the, you know, the private parties and that sort of thing, and get involved in your community in different organizations. So those are listed on the handout. I think everybody just wants to see me make something. So I will skip to the demo, but check your handout. Okay. There's lesson plans for those of you who are teachers. Okay. There's a lesson plan in there. All right. So let's get what we need. I've already got the markers. They're tipped down, right? We've talked about that a million times. Ready to go. Okay. I'm going to grab some regular copy paper. Okay, I don't know what blanks I have. Let's see down here. Okay, let's do these magnets. These Hexagon Unisub magnets. Everybody likes those, nice and small. This is a great make and take option. You know, they're one-sided. It's easy to, you know, decipher. I mean, not that if they're doing the sublimation sandwiches, this is a nice one because they can't really, you know, it's pretty obvious. I'd like to think, right, that the white side goes to the color side. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to trace our magnet with a pencil because I am not using a sublimation printer. And that's how I know where my hexagon is going to be. Now I'm done with my pencil. So put the pencil down. Okay, like in school, pencils down. So now I have my template. I know you guys can't see it, but it's just pencil, little hexagon on the paper. So now let's use the stamp pad because I know everybody's dying to use the stamp pad. All right, I got a pineapple here. Now, of course, these are, I keep our polymer stamps, as they call them, the cling stamps. So for those of you guys who are like not stampers, you're like not that crafty, you're like, listen, that's why I have a printer. Okay, this is how you and I thought of a stamp a few years ago. Now they come, they're clear and they come like this. All right, so let me show you guys. So these are our sublimation stamps. So this is how stamps come now. Okay, they come like this. And these are our sublimation stamps. Hello, happy, love, peace, friend, woof, and travel. Okay, so they come like this, and then you get an acrylic block like this, and you stick them to here. And then so instead of a bunch of these taking up space, it's you file them and keep them like this. So these are outside of the craft room. I keep the wooden block ones right here nice and close because I only have a few because they're so cumbersome. Okay, so then we take our black stamp pad. So this is a sublimation stamp pad. You can get this from Condi. And this is black sublimation ink in stamp pad form. So this part is just like regular stamping. I'm going to take the stamp, I'm going to put it in the stamp pad, and then I'm just going to stamp it in my hexagon. Now, if I don't get it exactly right, it's okay. You guys know when you go to make your sublimation sandwich, you can tape down the magnet wherever you want. Okay. And then press. Ta-da! And I'm going to a show on Wednesday, so I don't have all my supplies. So usually I have paper towels and I usually wipe this off. You want to wipe off your stamp, and that's just a rule for all stamps. That has nothing to do with sublimation stamp. You just want to wipe off your stamp with baby wipes, and we use water. Everything that is artist-free marker stamp pad is water-based, so you can use water to clean it off as well. Any questions? Yes, there's pricing on the handout. Okay, guys, so here is my pineapple, and I'm sorry that it's a little blurry close up, so that way it can be focused far away. But that is my pineapple, and so those black lines are going to transfer. So basically, if you had a sublimation printer, this is what it would look like. You would just print out a pineapple. You would just print out a pineapple, and those black lines would transfer, and then they can just color right over the black lines. But that's how we came up with, that's essentially how we came up with the stamp pad, really, is we were at a show, we would print these out, and then people were like, but how do the black lines transfer? Like, and then, you know, it was like, you know, like the dog, they were like, what? I don't get it. And then, so then that's when we're like, okay, you can make your own black lines now with the stamp pad, right? So that is essentially what it will look like when you print it out on your printer. And now all we have to do is color it in. That's all we have to do. So I'm just going to take my yellow, my greens, and just color it in. And now all of the chisel tip, or all of the colored tipped markers are chisel tip. And that's so that way you can, you know, turn it around and get the thick side, or you can get the thin side. And then just like traditional sublimation, the color is going to be more muted on the paper. So that will happen at your make and takes. They're going to say there's something wrong with this marker. It does not look like the cap. I'll show you here in a second. And you just tell them when the heat hits it and the pressure hits it, it's all going to change, right? The magic is in the marker. You know, I say that we bring a whole new term to magic marker. Okay, so here's just an example of the difference in color, and it's just like your printer, very similar. So you can see it's very different, and then it's going to be much, much brighter when we go to color. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I just went and colored right over those lines. I didn't worry about any smudging or anything with the leaves. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to take this yellow, I'm just going to color right over the black lines. Okay, and then what I'll do, and this is why I love the chisel tip. I mean, how fast did I just do that? If I was a fine tip, that would have taken me a lot longer. All right, and then I'm just going to use the orange and add just a little like accent. Okay, and there we go. So I would, you know, usually I would recommend to color it in like the background to give it more color, but let's go ahead and press because that's what everybody wants to see. Let's see this in action, okay? So I've got my Hexagon Unisub magnet, and I'm going to put it the white side face down, and I'm just going to use 2 pieces of heat tape, and that's just to keep everything in place so we don't have any ghosting. And then I'm going to make a sublimation sandwich. This is siliconized protective paper. I know everybody uses all sorts of type of things to protect their heat press and their work surface. We like to use siliconized paper here at Artistry, and Condi has siliconized paper too. So if you want to try out siliconized paper, you totally can. Condi has it. And I'm actually just going to cut down this computer paper because I don't need all this. I can save it for another project like a bookmark or a keychain. Can you use regular stamps? You can use your design stamps. The text stamps, they will be mirrored, but then of course there's tools that you can use like a gel press plate and things like that to back, forth, but it's almost like 3 times when you use the traditional stamps. Okay, so I've got my magnet taped down to my design, and then I'm just going to use, actually I don't even need 2 pieces, I can cut this in half because I'm way too big. So I'm just going to do 1 piece on the bottom for my bottom bun of my sublimation sandwich, and then I like to explain it like this, and you guys can explain it when you're hosting your make and takes, is that the blank is the hamburger and the design is the cheese, and the cheese goes on top of the hamburger. Now I know that there's some blanks that's like not, you know, some weirdo blanks out there, okay, that are a little different, but for the sake of hosting the make and take, just keep it easy, okay? All right, these are 75 seconds, so I gotta change this. I had it for 30 seconds for my door hanger. And then these are really thin, so I'm gonna tighten this a little bit. Okay, and that's it. And then I like to have my, oh.
Now, let's go ahead and play the recording of.
I don't know who that is. I don't know if I was hoping that would be Sprite, but maybe not. All right, let me see if I have any questions. What's the temp? These are 400 for 75 seconds. And like me, you can head over to dietrans.com for all of your pressing directions needs. They're way more than I should admit. So love that Condi has that available on all of their pages because I use it often.
Hey, Ashley.
Yes.
I have a question, and I'm sorry if you've already asked it, but Marion has a lot of rubber stamps. Can she use those?
Yes, I just used a rubber stamp. So these are the rubber stamps. So, but just be aware of those text ones. It can get a little tricky. There are some tools that I've seen, especially my stampers. I've seen them use like a Misty tool, which is a stamping tool. So there are tools that you can use to kind of make your traditional text stamps available for sublimation. But all of your design stamps, I mean, it's a butterfly. Yes, it will be reversed, but it doesn't really, matter. But technically everything will be reversed. If you want the design to transfer, it must be in the Artistry ink pad. Correct. Yes, correct. And if you wanted, wanted to create what I just did with the stamp pad, you can do the same thing with your sublimation printer. So you have both options. Okay, I definitely forgot to press the button and press longer, but that's okay. You want to know why? Because everything that we're using is meant for high heat. If it goes a little longer, I know that with traditional sublimation, if you cook it too long, your, blacks turn brown or something like that. That doesn't really happen with Artistry as much, so we can be a little bit more lenient. Okay. So we like to do the peak test, make sure you got a good transfer. My top sheet I can see the green on it. I just want to do a little peak test and it looks great. It looks great. So I'm just going to peel it back. Ta-da. And of course this is metal, so it's hot. And actually I'll come around. Come around. Let me focus. So there we go. And it's in there, just like your printer. It's in there forever. And so this is a great example. So it's obviously warm. So I would put it to the side where I have my sign that says cool down station. And then I would have this little, wherever it is, these just in a little, oops. Well, you saw it, now it's on the ground. But those in like a little bin, and then as they feel like they can touch it, right, it's still a little warm, and as they're ready to touch it, they can go ahead and grab that. So just like prior to making your sublimation sandwiches, or excuse me, once you get to the sublimation sandwich part, it's pretty much like you guys already do with everything else. So you guys already have a lot of this knowledge, which makes this really easy. It's just getting in touch with your crafty side. Let me refocus this so I'm not blurry. Whoop. Okay. So there we have it. Oh, let me scroll down. Lots of messages. Lots of messages. Awesome. Oh, thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it. Yeah, guys, give me some likes. Give me some likes. Oh, gloves. I can put the link for it. Just honestly, just type in heat gloves on Amazon. You'll find them. Just scroll down a little bit. And there's all sorts of colors. There's black and pink ones. I got Cheryl Kuchek a pair. They're turquoise. So they're fun. Thank you guys. Looks amazing. Came out beautiful. Very cute. Very cute. So cute. Super cool. I like to say that you can reuse the silicone paper if there's no ink on it. I'm sure with traditional sublimation, it's probably a no, but with crafting sublimation, that's what I say. Gloves are from Amazon, got that. You still use copy paper, Sandy. Yes, when you're using your sublimation printer, you still use copy paper. Can we use our own sub ink in the stamp pad? I wouldn't, because it's more expensive. Save it for your printer. And don't put the stamp ink in your printer either. You'd be sorry. Don't do that. Can you color right on the garment? Always get that question. It's a great question. You could, right? But I like to say don't, because one, not to get nerdy on you, but the molecules are happy on the paper when they're solid, and then when they're heated up, they're like, I want to go to the polyester. If you colored on the magnet, the molecules would be confused, and they're like, oh my God, I'm already on the polyester. Now what do I do? Right? So that's why you don't get a vivid, clear, crisp line transfer. Of course, if you mess up, you're only out a piece of copy paper and you're not out a garment, right? And let's be real, there are some garments that would be like impossible to color on. So just like that linen, you would not be able to, all that linen stuff that Condi carries, there's no way you'd be able to get something that has nice, beautiful, crisp lines going in the opposite direction that the linen goes, right? It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. So where is the chemist? Downstairs. Downstairs, we have a full lab. We truly are Chemist Gone Crafters. So we have Miss Paula. She's cooking up a new stamp pad colors for you guys right now. Can we use normal ink on the pad so it won't show then color, then press? Can we use normal ink on the pad so it won't show then color, then press? You could, if you want, if you're, so make sure I'm understanding correctly, and that is Miss Nancy. If you have a regular stamp pad with regular black stamp ink, and you didn't want it to transfer, you could stamp on the paper. The only thing is, it kind of goes back to that regular printer part of the presentation, where I don't know what that ink's going to do in that stamp pad. So it would be unfair for me to say that you could do it, right? Whereas pencils, I know pencils don't transfer, but I don't necessarily know what's going to happen with that ink. It could transfer, but it's not going to be permanent, and it could mess up your other design. So just keep that in mind. And remember that pencil doesn't transfer. So pencil's a great friend when using iron-on ink. Yes, our team is totally in the lab. They are amazing. They are amazing. What is the toaster oven used for behind you? So we use this for our drinkware with the Subli shrink, the shrink wrap. So this is, I was saying that this is just a really, really fun thing for people to do. It just gives them that extra feel of DIY with the heat gun and the shrink wrap. And you guys can incorporate even more things to help things don't look like a marker. So like I've used a gel press plate before, which is like a whole nother kettle of fish. And maybe we can do that sometime later, Sprite. We can come on and show how to get crafty with other really fun like artist tools. So that way it doesn't look like a marker, and it looks like, you know, like watercolor effects and things like that. So that is what we use that for, is for the drinkware. Yes. Same process, exact same thing. Doesn't change. That's what's really neat. Doesn't change just because it's our products. The same things that you guys use for regular sublimation can be applied for our stuff as well. No, our heat press does not require a special plug. Can you use plain paper or butcher paper to make your sub sandwich? So you can use, and that's why I was saying there's all sorts of things that people use for blowout paper, butcher paper, something that people use. We just like to use siliconized paper. That's just our preference. But there, every Friday you can join Sprite, and she uses butcher paper, copy paper sometimes. So you can use whatever you want. You just like regular sublimation, you want to make sure that you protect your press from and your works area from that ink migration, as we call it. Yes, everything behind us is made with our markers, except I did cheat. I printed out these mandalas on the sublimation printer and colored them in. So those black lines are sublimation printer, but everything else is markers. The bikinis are all markers. This I did with the stamp pad. So the markers are that's the stars are the stamp pad. You guys like my pet bandana? Hot dog summer. And that's done with, I cheated again here too. I've been cheating a lot lately with the sublimation printer, but I colored the hot dogs in. So yeah, so everything behind us is all done with the marker. So that's what's really great is when you're hosting these things, you can tell them that this is the same technology that's in their beach towel, right? It's the same thing. It's going to be there forever. So, just to let them know that what they're getting is a high quality item, and that and then, and sometimes just experiencing sublimation, we use the phrase iron on ink, try sublimation. Some people just geek out because they're just like totally like ready to nerd out over the word sublimation. So, oh my gosh, someone said it was their favorite session. You guys made me cry on a Friday all by myself in the office. What? Oh my gosh, you guys are so nice. Oh, thank you so much. I cannot wait until I can come to Mobile for the real thing in real life, maybe next year. And I have visited Condi before. We have so much fun. I love the Condi family. What is the foil on the oven for? I like to just line it with foil because sometimes the shrink wrap can get a little gooey. I mean, most times it doesn't, but I just like to put it on there. So then that way, I don't know. I even do that at home too. Just like, I don't like to clean. So that's the answer. That's the answer. Do you recommend removal of Teflon? So you guys, some of the things that, and these are really, really good questions. Teflon, with the things with the schools, you have to remember, you have to think about this. When you're going to someone else's place of business or you're going to a school, you want to make sure that what you're bringing is intended for that use, right? So like if we're going to be, for example, the whole conversation about butcher paper versus siliconized protective paper. If I was going to a school, I would want to use siliconized protective paper because I know that when I use this, I'm using it for its intended purpose, because you just don't want to be responsible for some waxy thing coming in the air. But if you're going into the air as it gets heated up, because it's really meant for cold cuts. But if it's just you in your office and you're like, listen, I'm grown and nothing's happening to me now, that's fine. Everybody's different. So just keep those things in mind when you're thinking about the tools that you want to use for these events and things like that. So just a little bit of extra information there. Okay. Marker holder is poppin, Poppin. Could you bring the pa? I don't know what that means. I'm glad you let that. Hey, Irvin, it's good to see you on here. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate everybody's kind words. Thank you so much. And Michelle, ask your question again. I don't know. Could you bring the pa? I don't know what that means. Could you bring the paper home and press? Oh, yes. That's a wonderful question, Michelle, especially going back to working with different age groups. You do not have to press at any certain time in the process. So if you're working with really young kids, what I would do is I would just have them draw, color, do whatever they want, write in pencil since it doesn't transfer, so it doesn't matter, their name on their thing. And then later, when you're by yourself or wherever, you got a helper, you can knock them out and press them out all at once. So there's no rules. We have seen things pressed over a year later and they look exactly the same. How cool is that? How cool is that? Thanks, Irvin. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Woo! Yay! So much fun. I'm glad everybody loved it.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Yay. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. I really loved ending the day like this and ending the week like this. So thank you. And if you have any questions, of course you can let Sprite know. She loves using the markers, right? Right, Sprite? You love them.
Yeah. Oh, and guys, I'm going to fix the stamp ink refill price as soon as I get done. So I don't know. That was my fault. I typed it in wrong. I priced it like $3 more than it's supposed to be on sale. It's on sale for that much. So yay.
They'll believe me, they'll let you know. They know.
Yeah, they did. I got the message.
Good job, guys. Teamwork.
Right.
Thanks, Evan. Thank you guys all for all your kind words. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to for the next one to be in real life. Woohoo!
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you. Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.